look at the Brooklyn Creek analysis quickly, where we use the ecological accounting process to look at the watershed. The focus was the town of Comox, which has jurisdiction in the lower portion of the watershed. Three departments in the town of Comox collaborated, as did the Brooklyn Creek Watershed Society and various organizations in the community, including local businesses. The watershed, as I mentioned, has three areas. The upper section is in the city of Comox. Land use decisions there in the past have made that part of the watershed. It's subordinated all of the ecological services to engineering strategies. The middle watershed is largely a rural subdivision area, and the long-established subdivision of land with roads and ditches and so on has really interrupted the interflow of the top meter of the soil in the watershed. And the lower part of the watershed is in the town of Comox, and that's where we were looking at the community investment in the worth of the watershed. Brooklyn Creek was done in a series of projects. Now here's a photo of an area that was later enhanced, and on the left you see the thicket, and the stream is in there. This is after the enhancement was carried out in this particular section of the stream over a 2-year period. And the strategy for this, which was very successful, was have a long-term plan, have your collaborators agree to that plan. So over 11 years, from 2006 to 2017, about $800,000 was invested in restoration work, really which is maintenance and enhancement. The town of Comox put up 40% of the required cash, other funders 40%, and donated and in-kind services about 20%. So there was a lot of leverage to the advantage of the local government to get this work done. The ecological accounting process also looks at the commons asset, as we call it, which is the ribbon of land that underlies the stream and encapsulates the adjoining riparian area. So in this map, what you're seeing is that zone imposed on platted properties. And what we did is we take those portions of each lot and we figure out what their value is based on the assessed value of the land in that particular adjoining parcel, whatever it is. These were all residential in this case. It comes from, the data is from BC Assessment Authority, and that data really reflects the interest of buyers when they make a property purchase or a property sale. So whatever it is that buyers value about a particular lot, in aggregate with a number of properties, you get a view of, well, people like to be in this part of the city or they don't like to be in this part of the town and so on. We found those values for the portions of the lots that were in the setback area. We used those values to tell us what that portion of the setback area was worth. We took 50% of that value as the commons, natural commons value. Now this is not a perfect measure, but it is a way to have numbers that you could consistently gather so you could be able to understand that your stream corridor or your natural asset area has a land value. Once you get to that point, you're able to talk about, well, how much should we spend on maintenance annually? So we found in our example, the stream was worth $2,700 per lineal meter. It was worth $2.7 million per kilometer. The stream length in the town of Comox is 2.5 kilometers, I think it is. So it has a value of $6.8 million. At 1% a year for maintenance, you'd be spending $68,000 to look after the stream. If you were doing enhancement, you might be spending more. So if you get these numbers, you also have an opportunity to contribute to asset management strategy and planning. In a sense, it's useful to have capital value amounts for the constructive commons and the natural commons, so you have some way of comparing how you're devoting resources to one or another. And typically, we do not have any asset value for the natural commons. So the purpose of the ecological accounting process is to help get numbers that can be used. And we've designed it so that communities can employ this process on their own if they choose to do that. They have the GIS data available, they have the stewards to work with, they have their own staff to work with, and they can hire consulting capacity where they need it. So I'd just like to thank the stewardship community for being the champions for the natural commons. And I'd like to thank, I'm missing a slide here. I'd also like to thank the people in local government who take the time to look at these issues and think about how they can contribute to another way of understanding ecological services, managing those services, and understanding the role of those services in the prosperity of their communities. Thanks.